So, traffic signals or roundabouts. So, it may seem like kind of a random topic, right? But I was been thinking quite a bit about how, how in some places, in some countries, you have like roundabouts and not so much like um, red and green traffic signals. Then in the U.S., we mostly have that. And I was also reading recently that they did a study. They did a study kind of asking after just to figure out whether traffic signals or roundabouts were safer. And they discovered that actually, like in a lot of instances, the roundabout where you kind of negotiate the turn at intersections is actually safer than having sets of traffic lights. But then they polled Americans and said, would you guys rather have, whether they would rather have the traffic signals, the lights, or the roundabouts? And apparently the lights was just like universally, was like a no-no. And then I thought about it, I was like, well, if you polled me and you asked me, do I want traffic signals or do I want a roundabout? And then I thought, oh no, I don't want a roundabout either. I like the lights. But then I thought, why is that? I was in a car accident actually pretty recently, and what happened was I was, driving straight through the intersection. I had been on a green light for like a mile or two for a while. And I was just like, driving on my green light, I love that. You love it when you get a green light every single time. But you know what else? It allows you to drive passively. It allows you to just be way more like, passive drive, because you're just cruising through and you're getting a green light. You don't have to like negotiate a roundabout at every like, major intersection or anything. And then what happened in the accident was, I think I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he ran a red light, whatever. But in any case, the guy that hit me completely surprised me. Why? Because I was just kind of passively driving, and maybe the light had just turned green as I was approaching the intersection that time. So he was still like he definitely had a red light, but maybe he was trying to run a red light that had just turned red. But then he just hit me. Obviously I'm here, so I survived, and I just like flew. I just flowed with the accident and flowed with it and turned. And so, he's huge SUV. So he ran his red light and kept going. And I guess my point is, even though I also agreed at first, like I was like, oh, if you ask me, I don't like roundabouts either. But I realized the reason why is because I like the convenience of being able to rely on like the traffic signal. I like the idea that the traffic signal tells you whose turn it is. There's just like a big thing there that says your turn, your turn, your turn. But I feel but I understand why that's more prone to accidents, because if somebody like disobeys that or is a little bit this or a little bit that, then it just totally like, I don't know, I guess it's just really like disrupts things a lot more. Where like when you have like roundabouts, everybody's looking at everybody. Okay, so I was born in Nigeria, right? I visit from time to time, but last time I was there in 2011, right? I did a little bit of driving, not a lot of driving. But one thing I noticed about driving over there is that you have to be alert all the time, because it's bad that everybody breaks rules, but it also like, you can't drive passively, because there's like, you can't just say, well, there's this, it's gonna tell me what to do, and anybody who breaks that, oh my God. Like, no, it doesn't work. So oddly, I hear that I'm not sure if I believe it, but I hear that they hardly have accidents in Lagos, which is that they don't have that many. Well, okay, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I didn't see any while I was there, so maybe it's true. But I can kind of see why, because there's nobody that's not alert. Like there's nobody that's not, like, you have to negotiate all your turn, negotiate every move. Like, what are you doing? You're doing that. And so you're constantly engaged with the other driver to like gauge what they're gonna do and what they're, and in the US, so in the US, it's easier to drive passively, and so I think that's what leads to like accidents, is just kind of like our lack of like defensive driving sometimes. Maybe mine sometimes, lack of defensive, because you just stick with the idea that like you're obeying the rules, and anybody else who doesn't is like, oh, how dare you, right? That sort of, which makes sense, right? You should be like, I had a green light, I was right. But it's like sometimes that's like not, it's not enough to be right sometimes. Well, I don't know. Yeah, in that instance, in that kind of situation, it's not enough to be like, I have a green light or I have a this. So it was like, I don't know. I just started thinking about that, how like how where you don't have traffic signals, people practice defensive driving all the time because they're trying to negotiate, each movement and their turns and everything, and so they're always aware of other drivers, and you're always looking at like, what are you going to do? You're going to turn? Okay, fine then, or whatever, and that I can see why that leads to fewer accidents. So yeah. So now when you get a survey now asking you whether or not you like traffic lights or roundabouts, think about it that way. Think about, like, instead of just being like, oh, roundabouts, oh heck no. Think about it like it'll make everybody more like drive more awake and alert and not rely on like whatever the signal says and stuff. And that might change your opinion or not. That's all.